Why do politicians and ex-politicians think it's okay to voice their opinions on issues such as the debunked link between the Black Lives Matter rallies and outbreaks of COVID-19 in Victoria? It is political point scoring and it divides the community. When aren't we all supposed to be in this together?
Now, I'm going to put this to Sarah Henderson, but before we do that, last week on Twitter, our program said that Sarah Henderson had linked the current spike in infections in Victoria to the Black Lives Matter protests. We need to clarify that that is not what Sarah said. On the 21st of June, Sarah Henderson, you asked why Dan Andrews was blaming, in your words, law-abiding Victorian families for doing the wrong thing rather than 10,000 illegal protesters. I just wonder what you actually meant.
Well, Hamish, thank you for that clarification. And in fact, the head of news for the ABC, Gavin Morris, did issue an apology on behalf of Q&A because a very erroneous post or two was made in relation to what I said, and I was grossly misrepresented. So I was
what
very
did you
pleased that apology. I was, just let me finish, I was very pleased that obviously that apology was made. But what I was highlighting was the double standard. We had had a number of months where Victorians had not been able to go to funerals, where Victorians had closed businesses, schools were closed, and of course, weddings are being cancelled. And yet there was a real double standard when the Victorian government really did nothing insofar as 10,000 people gathering at the Black Lives Matter protest. And I made the point in that tweet, which you didn't read out, we are all equal under the law. And I think what really stood out to many Victorians is, well, hang on a minute, how can you say I can't gather with 10 of my family members, and yet basically there is very little action, or no action in fact, by anyone in the government in relation to 10,000 people gathering, many of whom, of course, were not observing social distancing and hand hygiene and the like. And today, Hamish, the New South Wales Commissioner, Mick Fuller, made a very important point. He said there is no way that I would tolerate that in New South Wales. They are going to come down very, very heavy on any protest. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is, because he said that if that type of protest was to happen in Sydney, that could set back the state of New South Wales by 5 or 10 years. So I think what I was concerned about, and I think what many Victorians have been concerned about, is that Victoria took no action to stop that protest, and it sent out very mixed messages, and that was really regrettable.
And just to be clear, do you accept that there is no link between those protests and COVID-19 outbreaks or spikes?
Well, Hamish, I'm just interested in the facts.
Yes, so I'm asking you if you accept those facts.
Yeah. Well, Hamish, can you please not suggest that I don't accept the facts? I understand, and the Department of Health and Human Services has advised that some 6 people were positive. Now, whether they actually caught the virus at the protest rally, we don't really know, and I think we will see from the hotel quarantine inquiry many more facts coming out in relation to the genomic sequencing. But what we certainly do know is that that sent out a really bad message, a terrible double standard, where, as I say, you couldn't gather with your family members in your home, but of course you could go to a protest and meet up with 10,000 other people. That was a very, very big mistake, and I have been outspoken about that.
Can I just draw? I know you're saying before,
but I have been.
I just need to draw your attention though to what the...
because it was a very...
I just need to draw your attention to what the Victorian Department says though. Currently there is no evidence to suggest those acquired cases of the virus were from the protest. They went on to say that currently no known nor suspected episodes of transmission occurred at the protest.
But Hamish, I didn't... even in asking that question, you're not actually listening to what I said. I said there, we don't know whether anyone who was found positive actually caught the virus at the rally. We don't know that information, and I'm not suggesting that that occurred. But what I am saying is that it sent out, because it sent out the wrong message. It sent out the message that all people were not equal under the law, and there's talk about how the police have come down very, very heavily on people for doing all sorts of things, and yet none of those protesters were fined. And as I mentioned, the New South Wales Police Commissioner has said there is no way that that would happen in New South Wales. His view is that every single person who attends a protest should be fined and there should be consequences. And as I say, the point I was making is that all people, all Victorians are equal under the law. And unfortunately, that message really did not get out there because of the way the Victorian government treated those protesters.
Adam Bandt, I can see you try to get in.
Well, are you serious, Sarah? Like, the Liberals have been running around in Victoria calling our Premier a dictator because he wouldn't let people play golf. I mean, this is coming from a party that has been shouting from the rooftops saying we need to open up the borders and ease restrictions and get out from under the doona. Your government at the moment is out there supporting Clive Palmer in the High Court to say that WA should lift its border restrictions at the same time as we've got this crisis happening here in Victoria and New South Wales, and we're trying to stop it from spreading. So if anyone has some responsibility for trying to shift public debate in a way that's saying these restrictions need to be eased, it's the Liberal Party people who are channeling Trump. And I think in this country at the moment, we need Scott Morrison to be more Jacinda Ardern and less Donald Trump. We need less of this push to say everyone needs to get out from under the doona, and we need to have a health-first approach. We've heard the health evidence about the Black Lives Matter protests. Can I say I'm more concerned about the fact that, you know, in New South Wales, for at the moment, 300 people can gather without masks in a pub. That seems to me on the health a risk to be posing a potentially greater risk. And I think it's shades of Peter Dutton and talking about African gangs in Melbourne. It's trying to use an issue that you disagree with to push a barrow that's really got nothing to do with the health response at all.
Adam,
I thought we just established that this kind of political we don't want to hear.
If I could just respond
from
there,
Sarah and from Adam, this is what the public have said they're not interested in.
Yeah,
You've just given us the perfect example, both of you, of what we don't want to hear.
OK, let's take our next question. It's a
Adam, Hamish, I would like to respond to that.
Go for it. Make it quick. We've got to move on.
Yeah, I was critical about the Black Lives Matter protests, but I think that the way that Adam has responded is very inflammatory. That is not the focus of our government. We are all about working with state and territory governments to make sure that we can get through this with our health response, our economic response. And as the Prime Minister said today,
you've made those points
to Daniel Andrews,
so I think at this point you've made those points many times.
As the Prime Minister said today, we have an open account, and we are here to stand by you and to stand by all Victorians.